I was, one of the 6 men charged in the Gina 6 debacle back in 2006 in Gina, Louisiana. Um, I guess two of the things that stood out as far as my personal experience with the system. Number one, the sort of degrading conditions of confinement that youth and adults alike are subjected to pre-trial and pre-adjudication. I know there were instances during my incarceration where I was unnecessarily maced by deputies. Uh, there were times, so excessively that on one occasion I was actually hospitalized due to medical reasons and sort of, you know, with the mace and things of that nature. And so I guess in my work here as a community advocate, I spent a lot of, my working days in jails and detention centers speaking with youth. And also I've spoken with adults subjected to unconstitutional conditions of confinement. And as far as my personal experience with being detained in a prison jail for 7 months, understanding sort of the dangers and harmful practices that youths are subjected to pre-adjudication. There is a need for a broad consensus as to what is appropriate and necessary policies and practices for juvenile detention facilities and the juvenile justice system in this country. The need to sort of have some sort of understanding of the appropriate practices in place. The need to have, trainings and things of that nature for detention center staff of what is the most up-to-date research for what sort of treatment that kids and youth need in detention centers. But one of the things that sort of constantly stands out to me because because of my personal experience of being incarcerated, and in no way are my experiences sort of to the extent possible similar to the juveniles because they are so young, often 10, 11 years old. The practice of being subjected to excessive isolation, solitary confinement, whatever the detention center staff may call it, be it administrative segregation or whatever. It's just with youth being in a closed, box, hours at a time, often for, days at a time, and the sort of psychological torture that they have to endure because of those practices is completely disturbing, and it's something that, that I can at times get emotional about when I see kids as young as 10 and 11 sort of voice concerns about their mental state or, psychosis, anything of that nature that's sort of harming them and oftentimes make them want to harm themselves because they feel like their lives aren't sort of worthy because detention center staff treats them inhumanely. We're usually able to ascertain that a lot of, the kids in our detention centers in this country are often kids who have been victims of violence themselves, or most of the time they are broken, years before their incarceration. It was just something that was inevitable at that point, considering the lack of care for them. I speak with, youth who have been victims of sort of domestic abuse, and then youth, they may just sort of like run away, and because they like run away from the violence at home, then they're, subjected to harmful detention center policies that continues to exacerbate, their sort of mental or well-being. And so that's just, something I think the detention centers can do a better job at as far as rehabilitating kids and not continuing to make things worse for them when they are detained. Even when they're released, as far as the importance of not putting them back in environments that would lead them back down the same path.